tangled mane of curly auburn hair swirled like a tattered autumn leaf around her too thin face. The only cosmetic she had left was the stub of a mocha-colored lipstick that lay at the bottom of her purse, and she hadn't bothered to use it in weeks. What was the point? Though she was 27, she felt like an old woman. She glanced down at the sleeveless blue chambray dress that hung from her bony shoulders. The dress was faded, much too big, and she'd had to replace one of its 6 red buttons with a brown button after the original cracked. She'd told Edward she was making a fashion statement. The Impala's door squealed in protest as she opened it, and when she stepped out onto the blacktop, she felt the heat radiating through the paper-thin soles of her worn white sandals. One of the straps had broken. She'd done her best to sew it back together, but the result had left a rough place that had rubbed the side of her big toe raw. It was a small pain compared with the larger one of trying to survive. A pickup truck whizzed by, but didn't stop. Her wild hair slapped her cheeks, and she used her forearm to push away the tangled strands, as well as to shield her eyes from the billow of dust the truck kicked up. She glanced over at Edward. He was standing beside the bushes with horse tucked under his armpit, and his head bent at a sharp angle, so he could stare up at the yellow and purple starburst-shaped sign that soared above him like an exploding galaxy. Outlined in light bulbs, it contained the words, "Pride of Carolina." With a feeling of inevitability, she lifted the hood, then stepped back from the gust of black smoke billowing from the engine. The mechanic in Norfolk had warned her the engine was going to blow, and she knew this wasn't anything that could be fixed with duct tape or a junkyard part. Her head dipped. Not only had she lost a car, but she had also lost her home, since she and Edward had been living in the Impala for nearly a week. She'd told Edward they were lucky to be able to take their house with them, just like turtles. She sat back on her heels and tried to accept the newest in a long string of calamities that had brought her back to this town she'd sworn she'd never return to. "Get out of there, kid." The threatening sound of a deep male voice cut through her misery. She stood so fast it made her woozy, and she had to grab the hood of the car for support. When her head cleared, she saw her son standing frozen before a menace-looking stranger in jeans, an old blue work shirt, and mirrored sunglasses. Her sandals slipped in the gravel as she flew around the rear of the car. Edward was too frightened to move. The man reached for him. Once she'd been sweet-tongued and gentle, a dreamy country girl with a poet's soul, but life had toughened her and her temper flared. "Don't you touch him, you son of a bitch!" His arm dropped slowly to his side. "This your kid?" "Yes, and get away from him." "He was peeing in my bushes." The man's rough, flat voice held a distinct Carolina drawl, but not the smallest trace of emotion. "Get him out of here." She noticed for the first time that Edward's jeans were unfastened, making her already vulnerable little boy look even more defenseless. He stood frozen in fear, the rabbit tucked under his arm, as he stared up at the man who towered over him. The stranger was tall and lean, with straight dark hair and a bitter mouth. His face was long and narrow. Handsome, she supposed, but too cruelly formed, with its sharp cheekbones and hard planes, to appeal to her. She felt a momentary gratitude for his mirrored sunglasses. Something told her she didn't want to look into his eyes. She grabbed Edward and hugged him to her body. Painful experience had taught her not to let anyone push her around, and she sneered at him. "Are those your personal peeing bushes? Is that the problem? You wanted to use them yourself?" His lips barely moved. "This is my property. Get off it." "I'd love to, but my car has other ideas." The drive-in's owner glanced without interest at the corpse of her Impala. "There's a phone in the ticket booth and the number for Daly's garage. While you're waiting for a tow, stay off my land." He turned on his heel and walked away. Only when he had disappeared behind the trees that grew around the base of the giant movie screen did she let go of her child. "It's all right, sweetie. Don't pay any attention to him. You didn't do anything wrong." Edward's face was pale. His bottom lip trembled. "The man scared me." She combed her fingers through his light brown hair, smoothed down a cowlick, brushed his bangs off his forehead.